I just want to make sure you can see my screen. Okay, so let's say we want to scrape a website. So for instance, here's, if we put in the Beatles, then here's the Wikipedia page, right? And you can imagine, this could be, if it was just the Beatles that we're scraping data off of, we could probably just do this by hand. But you can imagine that, maybe there's a number of bands that we want to scrape data about. One of the groups, for the internship, they'll be probably scraping data for a number of legislative articles. So when there's a ton of this information, right, we want a way to automate this. So to do something like that, let me show you. Let's see if I can just do it. So the first thing we do is just import the request library. All right. So remember, the request library is how we're going to make HTTP requests, right? So now we do request.get. Just put in the URL that we want to make a request to. Over here, right? And that's going to give us back a response. 200 means that we're pretty good. Previously, right, what we were doing was we were requesting JSON, right? So remember before, what we did was have this response.json parentheses. In this case, because we're hitting HTML, because we're hitting a web page, right, really what we're getting back is text. So this is just using our same old request library. The only thing different is because we are, getting back HTML instead of JSON, we're doing response.text here. Notice what this gives us back, right? It's just a string, One thing that's going to be really annoying is now if we want to find, really be able to search this string, right? That's very hard to do just as a string, right? We split it and all that stuff. But the beautiful soup library will make and I'll show you in a second, will make this a lot easier. So what's this called? Import, I think it's from BS4. So the name of the library is Beautiful Soup, and you just do I always say it in the reading, but you just do pip install Beautiful Soup. Let's actually look. It is pip install BS4. All right. And then this -- quiet is just there so that in the Jupyter Notebook, you see this? It's not showing you all the output. That's all this -- quiet is about. Okay. But if you want to install it, you just do pip install or pip3 install BS4. And then the next thing we do is this line, right? So we install Beautiful Soup, which we call BS4. And then we are importing the Beautiful Soup. This is a class, right? We see the capitals. So we're importing the Beautiful Soup class, and we are referencing it as the variable BS, right? Or as the alias BS. Okay. So we have this BS alias. So all we did so far is we're importing this Beautiful Soup class. And then the next thing we'll do is we're just going to pass our response.text. Let's see if we do this here. Say text equals response.text just so we can see it. All right, so this is all our text. We're going to pass that text into the Beautiful Soup module. And when we do, notice that there are not these quotation marks around this anymore. This is actually an instance of a Beautiful Soup object, right? So this is its own class. So let's call this Beatles HTML. All right. And if we want to explore this thing, you can see it comes with these various methods. The most important one that we'll use is this find all one. Okay. So for instance, just to show you quickly, let's say that we want to find all the H1 tags, right? We have this Wikipedia article. If we do inspect, right, this is probably the typical workflow that I'd recommend is, go to the web page, kind of see all right, what do I want to get here? There are, these divs, the H1 tags, if you remember from HTML, right, this generally has the most important text on the page, right? So here's an H1 tag. And remember that if we highlight over it, we should be able to see it somewhere. There it is. Okay. So you can kind of like, if you want to pull something from the page, you can also just like right click it, click on inspect, and then it will take us, right, to that corresponding HTML. And now it's like our next task is find, pull this out in code here. Why? Because, maybe we want to get the text here. Maybe we want to get this content right here. Maybe we want to actually get the image, right? And we can store that. So there's like various pieces of data that we can now use to automatically pull. So let's start with the H1. So I'll just click inspect. That's not exactly what I want. Let's see this. All right, so there is this span. The span is inside of our H1. Let's start. So we have this H1. If I want to find all the H1s on the page, I'll just do find all, and then I believe H1. You see this? This is now, it looks like there's only one H1 on the page. It's returning it in a list to me, right? If I just did, yeah, that's good enough. If you just wanted to know there's only going to be one on the page, you can just also use the find method. So this only returns like one instance. If you do find all, it returns a list of instances, right? Which is useful if you have like H2s. Here's all the H2s on the page. This is maybe more interesting, right? We can kind of perhaps go through each of these sections. So let's try to do that. So here's my H2s. This is a list of these like beautiful soup objects. If I can select, right, the first one, just like a normal list, right? And then from here, let's call this my first H2. And then from here, we can get attributes of this, all right? So for instance, if I want the text, you see that? We get the text. Right, so here I can get the inner text. Something that's very useful is any of these attributes you can access just as if they were a dictionary, right? So that means if I want to get ID, I can do square brackets, string ID. Okay? So let's say, so what do we do so far, right? We did this, we took our beautiful soup, we took our text that we got from this response, we wrapped that in a beautiful soup object. Then we called the find all method, specifying H2 to find all the H2s. Then from there we saw, okay, if we like select one of these, we can pull out either like the text or really any of these attributes, right? So for instance, it looks like all of them but the first one and the last one have a class. The class is the same. They all have an ID though, except for the last one. So let's try that. Let's select all but the last one, right? And then let's say for H2 in all but the last H2s, let's pull out the H2, ID. And it breaks. Key error ID. This might be, it's probably one of them does not have an ID. Let's see. It looks like they do.
The last one doesn't.
Right, but we selected all but the last one, right? Let's just try it. This is all but last H2. I'll say almost all H2s. Right, and then we should be able to get 4 H2 and these H2. Yeah, alright, well, we almost did it, guys. But that's the idea, right? Let's get the second, let's just get like the second or third one. Oh, look at this. So it looks like, this is kind of interesting. Okay, so it looks like the H2 itself doesn't have the ID. It's the span inside of it that does. All right? Okay, so this is this brings up a cool thing. So let's just review. Like if I had the first one, this one does have an ID. I can take this first one, and then from there pull out the ID. Once I have, let's go to the second H2. Okay. Now, if I want to get this span, right, this could be kind of hard to do. Because, for instance, if I start from this Beetle HTML thing and just want to find, like, all the spans, that's pretty hard to do, Like, there's a ton of spans on the page. So maybe I would get, like, more specific, which is